Uh-oh. I hope this doesn't immediately get me banned from Facebook, because I've been wanting to talk about this for a while. And I'm gonna go ahead and talk about it. Dead Meat, the film that's illegal to watch. Who's this video? Zombie Requin? Or Requin? I don't know. Requin.
I've been a Kickstarter lurker for a long time, and one of the coolest projects I've ever seen is when the creator of Billy and Mandy pitched an R-rated puppet film that's currently illegal and would end careers if it was ever released.
That, okay, I wasn't expecting that just right off the bat. Billy and Mandy creators created something that could get everybody canceled, and it's illegal. Okay.
And in case you don't know anything about it, this is the story of Dead Meat.
I don't know anything about it.
Dead Meat was the passion project of Maxwell Atoms, the creator of the grim adventures of Billy and Mandy. If you're on the younger side of...
That looks like Hoss Delgado from Billy and Mandy, for anybody who's seen Billy and Mandy.
Maxwell Atoms, the creator of the grim adventures of Billy and Mandy. If you're on the younger side of millennials or the older side of Gen Z, then you don't even need me to tell you what Billy and Mandy was. But if you somehow don't know, The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy was a hit show on Cartoon Network in the early 2000s.
It's one of the greatest cartoons ever made.
Billy and Mandy's a cartoon classic, and for good reason. It had great characters, it was funny as hell, and compared to some of the other lighthearted cartoons at the time, Billy and Mandy had such an edge to it that just made it so cool and unique. It was the type of show that your parents hated, which made you love it even more. Maxwell Atoms has said that he based the show both off the good times of his childhood and the nightmares too.
When you were first starting off with stuff like Billy and Mandy back in the day, like...
I was watching stuff like Billy and Mandy, Courage the Cowardly Dog, but I was also watching way worse stuff that I shouldn't have been watching. Like, I got a hold of Spawn 2 probably when I was 6. That was probably one of the worst ones that I watched when I was way too young. But I used to watch horror movies and stuff, so it didn't really bother me. A couple episodes of Courage bothered me, because they were... Because scary movies aren't really that scary, but when you get into, like, existential horror and deep dread that a lot of horror movies usually don't go into, because they get into, like, slasher stuff and jump scares, but sometimes they get into like the uncanny valley, especially when they change up the animation or they do the return the slab and stuff like that. Yeah, it gets you.
You got the opportunity to make that show. Was it like at the front of your mind to be like, well, I'm going to take all this stuff that like quote unquote traumatized me as a child from movies and stuff and kind of put it into that?
Flapjack.
Yeah, absolutely. That was sort of the whole point, I guess. Yeah, I just wanted to take all this stuff that scared the crap out of me and make fun of it, but also kind of legitimately share it with other people as well.
Maxwell Atoms here hits on a note that I don't think a lot of people, myself included, have ever really thought about. Not just the types of fear, but the very feelings of fear that you have in adulthood are night and day different than the feelings of fear that you had in childhood. Most adults would be scared to walk down a dark alley by themselves, mostly out of a realistic fear of another person, but nothing in adulthood even comes close to the type of dread you felt when you were a kid and you really did think that there was a monster living in your closet or underneath
All right, dread was the worst when you're a kid.
your bed.
I remember I cried so badly during the Chud movie trailer commercial that my parents came in and they were really concerned and they made me watch it like 4 times just so I could understand that it wasn't real. And I just kept crying and crying. And it was Chud. I eventually saw that like 2 years ago. Amazing. Just in that it's so not horrifying and the monster is just like this bad puppet.
Billy and Mandy's a comedy show first and foremost, and it's mostly remembered for its good writing. But I think what I love most about Billy...
man, I have it. I want to go back and watch it. I haven't gone back and watched it.
And Mandy is just how well it captured both of those feelings. Maxwell Atoms was really not afraid to scare his young audience when he wanted to.
And you will be my closest, most bestest friend of all.
Not to me. It was not dramatic to me. I thought that shit was cool. But I was listening to like death metal and shit when I was like 7 years old.
Since the ending of Billy and Mandy, Maxwell Atoms has sold 5 different shows to networks, none of which have ever seen the light of day, either because they get canceled or they get placed
It's
on
a
the
spider
back burner
friend.
where they reside forever. Maxwell Atoms, understandably pissed off at major networks, decides to take his next project in a different direction. Thus, the Dead Meat Kickstarter was born.
Hey, I'm Maxwell Atoms, creator of Cartoon Network's Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, Evil Con Carne, and Underfist. And I'm here to talk to you about something I'm super passionate about.
Mexican food? Ooh, please tell me it's Mexican food!
Dead Meat was to be an R-rated puppet film about a
I
mercenary
recognized that voice. Who was that? What was that voice?
named Heck and his mutant dog, Dead Meat, surviving together in a post-apocalyptic Los Angeles. Dead Meat is a sweet-hearted dog, much the opposite of his immoral killer owner, Heck. Among their travels, they pick up a mutant named Suzuki Jackson, who's prophesized to unite all mutants and end the human race. Chasing
This sounds really cool.
after them is Claude, an old enemy of Hex and an officer of the Conglomerate, a paramilitary state that's hunting after Suzuki.
That looks like Deadpool.
There's comedy, action, car chases, bar shootouts. It's just one awesome looking movie.
Yeah, what happened? What's the problem?
Also got to give it to him. We don't get a lot of R-rated puppet movies, and the ones we do get are usually terrible.
Dead Meat is definitely an R-rated web series. That means exploding puppets, gross-out jokes galore, and dialogue taken straight from a sailor's mouth. But don't worry, I'm not gonna make you watch episode after episode of nothing but puppet gore. That's one of the features of Dead Meat, but it's not the whole tamale.
Real quick, I know I'm calling it a movie, but it was originally pitched as a web series. But at some point, everyone was just saying it should be a movie, and Maxwell Atoms seemed to agree with them at some point, so yeah, it's a movie. Kickstarter is always a risky gambit, but Maxwell Atoms has a real good track record to gathering audiences' attentions. In fact, the only reason Billy and Mandy ever premiered at all was because it won a Cartoon Network contest to be its next featured show, with flying colors. In a weird way, Maxwell Atoms' entire career is based off knowing what audiences want better than producers do. Within a month, Dead Meat had raised $56,000 from over 1,000 contributors, which is crazy successful for Kickstarter. Success was guaranteed from here on out.
In vain! Oh yeah.
We're all dead meat.
It was funded on Kickstarter. What could possibly go wrong? It never goes wrong on Kickstarter.
Dead Meat started off strong with a killer confirmed cast. Dana Snyder was to play Dead Meat.
Well, there's your first problem.
Number? Yeah, I bet you do a number. In your tights on Broadway, which is where you moved to after you left Texas Chainsaw Mascara.
And Josh Sussman was to play Claude.
I got to work with Maxwell Atoms for 3 seasons on Fishhooks.
This guy just seems like a creep. They're just hiring creeps for this. Okay, I could see where it went wrong, totally.
This is the first time he ever invited me to lunch.
Although, it starts to seem like Maxwell underestimated just how much it would cost to make the project. See, $56,000 might seem like a lot, but for a feature-length movie, it's really not. Napoleon Dynamite is a low-budget movie that was barely able to squeeze by on a budget of $400,000. The Blair Witch Project, a film made on basically nothing, still took around $30,000 to $65,000 just to film. Kevin Smith was just barely able to make Clerks in 1990.
I don't think that it actually cost that much for Blair Witch Project to actually make the movie. I think a lot of that was marketing.
94, a film mostly at a convenience store he already worked at, and sold his massive comic book collection just to get the funds to complete, still took him $25,500 just to make the movie. Normally, filmmakers without funds either just make a short film just to release or just as a proof of concept. But since this Kickstarter promised a full-length movie, that really wasn't an option for Maxwell. Maxwell Atoms seemed at some point to realize the money he raised was not going to be enough. So what now? Well, the movie is mainly made with puppets and miniatures, so at the very least there isn't a small time frame by which everything needs to get filmed. So at the very least, planning accordingly, Maxwell can film what he has and then use whatever money he saves up in the future to continuously make the film. This was going to be a much more time-consuming, lengthier version of making the movie, but as Maxwell Atoms himself said perfectly, in the triad of time, money, and quality, one has to suffer. And Maxwell chose time. So, years went by, and over the years, Maxwell did provide plenty of footage and behind the scenes, both to show that Dead Meat was still progressing and that Dead Meat wasn't just some scam where he was running off with everybody's money. We got footage of the rundown VW bus that they tracked down to film Riot Maker. We got footage of the entire miniature city that apparently Maxwell Atoms built all himself by hand.
Dude, this sounds so cool. This sounds like such a passion project. What happened? Let's get to it, man. I want to know. The suspense is killing me.
And I mean, holy shit. Maxwell is still working at Warner Brothers through a lot of this, but over the years, Maxwell released
working with Warner Brothers. There's another strike. That's probably strike 3 right there.
So much footage that shows that him and his friends are still working thoroughly on Dead Meat throughout all these years. And his work was definitely paying off. I mean, the miniatures and cars look fantastic. The puppets look good. I mean, it's no We Are Animals, but they do work for the goofier tone that Maxwell was going for, and what his budget would allow.
I mean, it looks all right. It looks like video game graphics PS1 era got turned into a puppet show. Like what's it called? Abe's Odyssey, all those types of games. Skylanders.
Was going for, and what his budget would allow. Maxwell describes working on this almost every day for 7 years. He described losing friends, lovers, and job opportunities in order to make this. And the longer the project took, the more he slowly drove himself insane. The more he says he started to use the project as an excuse just to ruin his life. But
bro, you could have used all this time. You could have took some time off and made another successful cartoon with this energy and money. And then use that to fund your passion project. Are you serious? This guy is just like had an obsession.
like a giant slab of marble, Dead Meat would slowly but surely be chiseled into a masterpiece. Flash forward to November 2019. Maxwell is now at the position to finally film the scenes that require human actors. And the scene that Maxwell apparently had to talk himself into letting his own house get wrecked in order to film. I can only imagine that he's talking about this scene. I mean, this is a post-apocalyptic bar that I'm guessing is Maxwell's real house.
It was when I first met. The first time I met you was the day that you were like, I need people to come fuck up my house.
Yeah, the graffiti's actually all still there, and I've been meaning to ask, did you do the bug person?
I don't think I did that one. Maybe I did. I wrote the word poop above your door.
Yeah, I remember that.
It's a gritty patchwork shelter that leads into an epic shootout between Heck, Claude, and the mutants. I'm not sure why he chose his own house here instead of just, like, I don't know, a place on Pier Space or something, but whatever.
Right? Like, get an abandoned house and do this. It would be cheaper, or unless you're just planning on living in a wrecked house.
These scenes were going to be expensive and demanding, but definitely the most showcasey. But after filming some of these hella expensive scenes, the mother of all bad revelations revealed itself. Maxwell was working with a few decently bigger actors who were also part of SAG, the Screen Actors Guild, and not only were their contracts expensive, but
We're about to see the strike, aren't we? The strike is what killed it.
Maxwell learned way too late that it's also illegal to film with mixed SAG actors and non-SAG actors.
What?
Meaning that everything Maxwell just spent 2 months filming was now illegal footage and illegal to show people. Okay.
Imagine not being able to finish a movie on a fucking technicality. This sounded like it was gonna be genius. I would have done it anyway. Who are these people to tell me no? Man, that's why I'm never gonna get involved in any kind of corporation like that, or any kind of group or union. I'm doing everything independent. This is disgusting.
Okay, so after talking to a few people, the legality on it is a bit more complicated than that. It's not against California state law, but SAG strictly prohibits mixing SAG and non-SAG actors. And any actors that were part of the Screen
Well, I
Actors
figured it wouldn't be against state law. It'd just be their stupid policy. And that's stupid.
Guild who appeared in the film could easily get barred for life from SAG, depending on how successful
Screw them. Screw them.
Dead Meat became. There are also some potential contracts that, if Maxwell signed, would make it illegal to release the film without SAG's permission. There are
So, if it becomes really, really popular and successful without them, then they'll reconsider you. Of course. Of course.
some very niche conditions by which it would be okay to mix both SAG and non-SAG actors, but even as low budget as Dead Meat was, it doesn't qualify for any of them. And even if it did, there would be heavy rules on how it could be distributed. But I don't know what contracts he signed, so I can't say on any of that for sure. Either way, not having the funds to reshoot all that essential footage, it was a devastating decision, no doubt, but Maxwell ultimately decided not to continue the project anymore. On January 22nd, 2020, Maxwell Atoms announced on Kickstarter that Dead Meat couldn't go any further. He released the full script online for anyone to read and offered all the backers a full refund. A lot of which refusing to take it, saying they were just sorry this happened to him. His fans were a lot more interested.
Let's just get a spiritual successor to Billy and Mandy. Let's get that instead. You wasted your time.
In Maxwell taking care of himself at this point than giving any more flesh and blood to this movie. But since the movie isn't coming out anytime soon, and let's be honest, you're not reading that script anytime soon either, I thought I'd just give you an overview of the story and its events and everything that happens. Think of this like Schmoop, except you don't have an exam coming up. Alright, you ready? Here we go. Intro, title card. We open up on some establishing shots of a radioactive, destroyed Los Angeles, where we meet our protagonist, Heck, who's currently being tortured in the basement of what used to be a Beverly Hills mansion. He's being electrocuted by some mutant cockroaches, and right when they're about to cut his dick off, Dead Meat bursts in the door wearing an awful cockroach costume. But when the act doesn't get them to budge, Dead Meat rips off the costume and explains that Heck's his master and his best friend, and that he's a really cool guy underneath it all, and that he promises not to get revenge if you free him. When the cockroaches are fooled, they untie Heck, only for him to immediately begin killing them in puppety gore.
This sounds absolutely insane, and I'm loving every second of it. This should have happened. It is such a shame.
They begin walking through corridors until they find another prisoner, Suzuki Jackson. Heck knows Suzuki and knows that she has a bounty worth a fortune, but before he can shoot her, Dead Meat body blocks, insisting that they take her in alive. And since Dead Meat just saved Heck from having his dick ripped off, he reluctantly agrees. Heck's
I don't like that
driving to
visual.
take her back in his post-apocalyptic Volkswagen bus, Riot Maker. But on the way home, Heck gets pulled over by a conglomerate officer named Claude. The conglomerate are like a weird mix of government, religion, corporations, and media, basically anything that can brainwash people. Oh, and since they're all those things mixed together, they're called the conglomerate. I see what you did there, Max. Claude and Heck have some heavy history that isn't explained yet, but Claude makes vague threats to Heck about how it's a death penalty to be harboring mutants. Claude also talks about Suzuki Jackson and how she's the most dangerous mutant alive since she's prophesized to unite all mutants under one banner and hunt humanity into extinction. He fails to notice the two mutants in the bus and lets Heck go for now. But when Heck...
It's so Borderlands-ish. Borderlands-esque. I love it. This seems like a better idea than the Borderlands movie. I can't believe Borderlands happened and this didn't happen. Honestly.
Heck gets back into his car, he finds Dead Meat and Suzuki making out. Over the next few days, the gang meets a few new characters, and Dead Meat and Suzuki begin growing closer and closer to each other, much to the dismay of Heck, who feels his control over Dead Meat loosening. We get a quick flashback to the before the war and see Heck really treating Dead Meat like garbage. In fact, we also learn that Dead Meat's real name is Randy, and that Heck's just been calling him Dead Meat because he's an asshole. Heck visits a bar called the Lick Room, but while he's there, Claude bursts in and confronts him about holding Suzuki. While this happens, a gang of hella tough mutants named the Cabazon burst in, also looking for Suzuki. Tensions rise, a shootout follows in which Claude and Heck just barely make it out alive. And yes,
Bro, in this video, this music choice was just kind of insane.
this is the scene that destroyed Maxwell Atoms' house. When Heck gets back, he finds his car gone and a note from Dead Meat saying he's no longer interested in turning in Suzuki, and that she and him have run off together. Heck, not taking the news well, follows after them in Macmillan's car. The finale is a giant epic car battle between Heck, Dead Meat, the mutants, and the conglomerate. And let me tell you, this battle goes on a while. At the end, basically everyone dies except Suzuki and Dead Meat. But when Heck's about to die, Dead Meat leaves Suzuki for him, and they go out together in a blaze of glory against the conglomerate. I've been a Kickstarter lurker for a long time, and Dead Meat is definitely one of the coolest and most interesting projects I've ever seen on it. And despite clearly underestimating how much money it would cost to make the movie, Maxwell Atoms' commitment to completing it is nothing less of outstanding. You can literally look through years of BTS footage of Maxwell Atoms trying everything under the sun to make this movie work, only to find out the footage he was shooting was illegal due to some nonsense law. It's also very admirable of Maxwell to offer a full refund.
Hollywood just ruins everything. All these corporations, they just don't want money. They actually don't like to make money. They just want to have the money. They don't like to make it because they don't know how to make it. Because they think what they know and what they do is the best. It's the best way. We gotta have our actors be in these movies, nobody else, because that's the best for us. And that's the best for everybody, right?
When he knew he didn't have the funds to finish the movie. I wouldn't be encouraging Maxwell Atoms to continue any further with the Dead Meat, as I think it's taken enough of a toll on his soul and well-being. But I would also hope that this hasn't discouraged Maxwell Atoms, or anybody for that matter.
Make it animated, please. Just, that's all we need. Just make it animated.
To give up on art entirely. Maxwell seems to be in a better place now, but the idea that he views the time he dedicated into this project as a waste just makes me so sad. So Maxwell, if you're out there, I know you don't know me, but I wanted you to know that I thought Dead Meat was awesome. So take care of yourself, and I can't wait to see what you come up with next.
Whatever this is, whatever this animation is right here, that's what I want. This looks like Billy and Mandy. I wanted a spiritual successor to Billy and Mandy, but for people my age, I think that'd be really cool. And that's where I'm going to end today's show. I have a spread shop down there in the description, man. Or if you're on any of the other platforms, just check out my link tree. I'll have it linked also down there in the description or the comments, whichever one. And you could buy some of my merch and help me out. I got some cool stuff on there. I'm adding more designs all the time. I just added some new designs on there.